Welcome to the show, guys. We are continuing on with the Impact series, and I would say I'm probably the most excited about this particular episode. I got Jim Wyatt here. He is the Titans beat writer, the man, the guy that knows exactly what's happening with Derrick Henry. Jim, what's going on? Welcome to the show.
I appreciate you having me on. Yeah, this will be a good time.
I'm so excited to dive in. First of all, learn a little bit about you, but I got so many questions because I'm all in on Derrick Henry this year. And again, I'm very intuitive. I was the guy that years ago, before his breakout year, where he really started crushing, people started to realize how good he was, where he started imposing his will. I was the guy that believed in him, where people were saying, well, Damian Williams is even better. And in fantasy, it's pretty shallow. And we were so judgmental. We go on last year. Everyone's like, Damian Williams is better than Henry. I'm like, yeah, let's back up here a little bit. And I had Derrick Henry crushed it for me. So much to talk about with Treylon Burks. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. Ryan Tannehill, expectations, outlook, so many questions. I'm excited about the Titans this year because I think this is the year they got to go all in here. But before we do, I want to learn a little bit about you, how long you've been doing what you're doing. Again, fantasy people are, again, I keep explaining us as shallow people when it comes, give us information. And I don't mean that in a mean way. We just want to know, give us information. Tell me what's going to happen in fantasy. So a little bit about yourself. What are your credentials so people know how good you really are, what you do, please?
Well, I appreciate that. I've covered the Titans since '99, since the team became the Titans. I'm a Nashville native, grew up here, went to grade school here, went to high school here, never dreamed we'd have an NFL team here. I worked for the Nashville Tennessean, the newspaper of record here from the time I got out of college in the early '90s. And I covered preps, small college, you name it. I was covering the, boat races in the Old Hickory Lake here in Nashville, is covering a lot of track and field, prep sports. I mean, I covered just about everything. And then mid '90s, late '90s, it started to hear a little bit of buzz about the Oilers could be moving to Nashville, and then it happens. And I continue to kind of be the high school sports coordinator for the Tennessean. 97 and 98, and then when the Titans became the Titans, first started playing in their what was Philadelphia Coliseum back then, my sports editor said, hey, I'd like to be an extra guy on the Titans beat. I said, I'd love to be the extra guy on the Titans beat. Again, never dreamed we'd have an NFL team here growing up. So I started covering the Titans in '99 with a couple other guys. I was kind of a backup, kind of finding my way. I covered some Predators, the Nashville hockey team, a little bit over those 2 years. And then 2 years in, I became the full-time beat writer for the team. I covered the team for the Tennessean from 1999 to 2014. In the middle of 2015, I joined the Titans organization. They hired me to kind of do what I did at the paper for them. It's a different job now because I'm obviously, approaching things differently, working for the team as opposed to working for the newspaper where you're tracking a lot more stuff. But it's been great. Love covering the NFL, love covering the team. Feel like I got a lot of institutional knowledge from being around for so long. I've seen the Eddie Georges, the Steve McNairs, the Javon Curses, the Frank Wycheks, the Samari Rolls, you name it, all the way from Ira Hainsworth to Chris Johnson to Vince Young, Pac-Man Jones, Marcus Mariota. I mean, I've seen it all. And now heading into 2022, certainly feel like I'm going to be covering a good team again, but it's also a team that's in a window of opportunity that needs to seize the opportunity, and we'll see if this is the year.
Yeah, you mentioned Chris Johnson there. He's a friend of the show, for super nice guy, and one of the best running backs for the Titans. And you guys have even stepped it up with Henry, which is tough to do, to kind of top Chris Johnson, his pinnacle year. He was great in that 1 year. I can't remember what year it was, 2008 or something. I can't remember.
2009 was his 2,000-yard season.
That's the year. Yeah. Yeah. Good memory. So again, I'm just excited to dive into the Tennessee Titans. Again, I love what's going on, what some of the moves you guys made, but you dive in a bit more. Now let's start off with quarterback, move our way through the depth chart, mainly an offensive focus. And we'll touch on kind of outlook, how you think you'll do in the division. Cause I had the Jacksonville beat writer and I had the Colts beat writer on, super nice guys. And we kind of debated on how the division's going to go, but the biggest problem here is quarterback, right, with the league. And you kind of have that franchise quarterback to succeed. And we had it's the same conversation, same narrative I have with every beat writer. You need that, I think, Justin Herbert, Pat Mahomes. And in my opinion, in my humble opinion here, and again, I'm straight up. If I think a player sucks, I say he sucks. I don't think Tannehill sucks, but I just don't think he's the guy that can get him deep into the playoffs and win a Super Bowl. I could be wrong. Has Tannehill done anything to add to his repertoire? Anything, physically he's done to kind of get him over this hurdle that, like, can he be special this year? What's the story with Tannehill going in this year? And do you think he could be the guy that could lead him to the promised land this year?
I mean, he works. I mean, there's no question about that. I mean, his work ethic's good. I think his leadership is good. His play on the field has been good here most of the time. It wasn't in the playoff game against the Bengals, and that's why the season ended abruptly, and that's why there's so many people, calling for his job and questioning whether he can do it. I get it. I mean, when you throw 3 interceptions in the playoff game and play a big role in keeping the team from advancing, then you're going to catch a lot of criticism, and he knows that, and he has dealt with the anguish and the pain of dealing with knowing that he let the team down. And I think he is capable of leading this team to a Super Bowl. They're going to have to be good around him. I mean, it was just a couple of years ago, Ryan Tannehill helped lead the team to the AFC Championship game. He's the team's best quarterback since Steve McNair. And I mentioned him earlier when I covered this team from starting in 99 and 2003, that was a window of opportunity where McNair was a quarterback and the team went to playoffs 4 times in 5 years. They went to 2 AFC Championship games. They went to the Super Bowl, didn't get the job done. I think the Titans are in another window with Ryan Tannehill that started in 2019. They lost in the AFC title game that year to the Chiefs. They lost in 2020 in the first round of the playoffs to the Ravens after having a home game there and after winning the AFC South. And then last year they won the AFC South again, number 1 seed, and did it, because they were a really good team. And then again, laid an egg in the playoffs. So this team is now in a position where it needs to seize the opportunity. I'll say that again. And I think Tannehill is capable, but with all that said, they're going to have some guys step up. He's going to have to play better because A.J. Brown's gone. Roger Saffold, David Quisenberry, 2 starters from the offensive line, gone. You've got Treylon Burks, a first-round pick who's going to need to step up. You got Robert Woods who's coming in here, coming off of a torn ACL that's going to have to be good for him. You're going to have somebody win those 2 open jobs. You're going to have some new tight ends in the mix, whether it's Austin Hooper, the free agent addition, most recently with the Browns, or Chico Okonkwo, the draft pick from Maryland. I mean, all those guys have got to step up. I'm just banking on the defense being good because they've got all those guys back, and they were good at the end of last season. But, Tannehill's going to have to be better, but they're going to have to be better around him. But I don't look at him like as a guy who can't do it because I do think he can. He just got to be good when it matters most.
Perfect. Now I want to save Henry kind of near the end here. I want to just jump into wide receivers because that kind of goes together. Treylon Burks, like, he's exciting for fantasy because he's super good value. You can get him and he could be the wide receiver 1 on the team. How much volume do you see going his way? Could he be special? Could he be the wide receiver 1? How good is Treylon Burks, and can he supersede Robert Woods as the 1? And is there any connection going on that we don't know behind the scenes? Who, through practice, do you see Tannehill kind of targeting Treylon a little more than Woods? How do you think this is going to play out volume-wise?
Well, I mean, Treylon Burks that I saw in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, when I was down there visiting my daughter at the University of Alabama in November, is a stud. I watched him catch, 8-9 passes that day for about 180, 190 yards, scored 2 touchdowns. He was running away from Alabama DBs, looked like one of the best receivers in the country, and he was picked 18th because of his talent. But that Treylon Burks I've not seen on the practice field this offseason because he's dealt with some things that have kept him from being able to practice much in OTAs and mini camps. I can't sit here and tell you, Treylon Burks has had a great offseason. He's going to be the number 1. He's heading into camp with great momentum because that's not the truth. He is going to be starting in training camp pretty. I don't want to say starting from scratch, but he hasn't been out there with Ryan Tannehill much. He hasn't built any connection with him. He's dealt with some asthma issues. He's dealt with some conditioning issues that he's gotten under control now. And now he's going to have to be good in camp to earn opportunities and to earn snaps. Robert Woods just touching on him again, he has been limited himself in practices because of the knee brace he's been wearing. I think both those guys will be in a much better spot when the team kicks off camp here on July the 27th. And we'll just kind of have to see how things transpire. They didn't pick Treylon Burks to ride the bench, I can tell you that. But he's going to have to earn his opportunities. And the league is different than college. I don't care what kind of competition you played against when you're in the SEC. These guys, that he's going to be playing against a day in and day out basis are savvy, and they're going to test him, and he's going to have to get on the same page and prove that he can be counted on early to play.
Are any of the other guys look good? I see depth chart, Nick Westbrook, Kyle Phillips, anything about these guys we should know as fantasy guys that could sprout out as being the guy there, or not really? These guys are more just depth, right?
Nick Westbrook-Akina is somebody who consistently gets overlooked, and he continues to kind of climb the depth chart. How high can he go? I guess some of that hinges on Woods and Burks and how they develop. But Westbrook-Akina just a couple of years ago was an undrafted free agent out of Indiana who didn't catch the ball very well in practice. I thought he was maybe a practice squad guy, in his career, but he has gotten better. He's worked hard. He catches the ball consistently now. He doesn't fight it like he used to. And last year, you look at his numbers. I mean, I don't have the stats right in front of me, but I think he was second on the team in receptions. I mean, behind AJ Brown, and he has gotten better. He's had a great offseason for the Titans. I think he's going to help them. There's no question about that. So if you're looking for a value guy on fantasy, it's Nick Westbrook-Akina, because I am looking at my stat now from a year ago. AJ Brown was number one, 63 catches, 869 yards, 5 touchdowns. Well, Westbrook-Akina was 38 catches, 476 with 4 touchdowns. That's second in every one of those categories. So, and he's coming back, and he is a guy that's been out there the whole offseason. So look for him. Kyle Phillips is going to be good. How good can he be as a rookie? We'll see. I think he may help him some. And then you've got other guys. Des Fitzpatrick. He's just got to keep doing more to stick. Racing McMath, another guy that's going to be in the competition. There's somebody else. Just to keep an eye on. Josh Malone. He's bounced around the league a little bit. Went to the University of Tennessee. Went to high school here in Station Camp, which is just up the road from where the Titans facility is. He's had a great offseason. And part of it's been because he's got a lot of opportunities because other guys haven't been out there. But he may have found a place where he could stick and make some plays. His future and impact could hinge on how much he can do on special teams. And can you afford to keep a guy if it can't help you on special teams? That's something to watch in camp.
For fantasy, I might just grab Treylon Burks later. I'm going to stay away from the other guys for now. I just like the value and the potential of him being a wide receiver one. So that, to me, from a fantasy perspective, is appealing.
I think you get good value there. I bet you could get good value on Westbrook-Akina too. But a lot of people outside of Nashville don't know him. So if you got a throwaway late, that's not a bad guy to grab.
All right, I want to dive into the meat and potatoes. Right to Derrick Henry, because again, he had the injury. I think it was a foot injury. How is he looking? Is this a record-breaking type year for him? Because again, I'm not a mathematician here, but I was looking at his stats last year, and like 8 games that he played, and I keep emphasizing this to the fantasy community and why he's number one, is like he was putting top 10 stats in almost all categories. I mean, attempts, he was top 10 with 219. When you look at it from a yardage perspective, he was number 9 amongst running backs, 937. Touchdowns, he had 10 touchdowns, which made him tied with Zeke Elliott, and number 6 in rushing touchdowns. That's 8 games. We're talking 8 games. So it's a bit of a concern for a couple things. Like, can he maintain that pace? Because again, he got hurt. Is Haskins going to come in, Hassan Haskins, and be more a thorn in the side? Is it going to be a committee, or are they planning on running Henry wild like they were last year, or is there more preservation? What is the talk around this? Can Henry run wild? Can he break records this year? Because I think at that pace, I mean, mathematically, again, I'm not a math, he would have been over 400 attempts if he had maintained that attempts, 430 attempts. I don't know what he would have been at, but what is this sustainable, and what are expectations for his volume this year?
Well, he looks great. I mean, he went around here most off season. He kind of trains on his own in Dallas, and believe me, he's training. Some of these guys, when they're away, you wonder what they're doing. There's no one worries about Derrick Henry. All you got
I've
to do
seen
is work out.
videos.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
he's a beast. So I mean, I can tell you he looks the part, and I can tell you he's going to want as many carries as he can possibly get because he wants to be on the field. You know, he doesn't like to take reps off. He's a workhorse, but I think you know, is he going to have a record-breaking season? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the 2020 season, he had 381 carries, I think, is what the total was that year. I can't see that happening just because I think you've got to be smart with him, not wear him down. I think he's capable of being good, but I think he's going to get more. I think you get more bang for your buck maybe if you reduce his workload a little bit. Now, Derrick Henry again doesn't want to hear anything about a reduced workload. He wants to be
No.
out there every snap. But when you
Smashing
draft,
people.
yeah, but when you draft a guy like Hassan Haskins from Michigan, and you got a guy like Dontrell Hilliard who was signed last year and really kind of overachieved, then you've got the luxury of having a couple of guys who can maybe take a little bit off of his plate, do some things on third down that maybe you don't have to ask him to do. So I think he's going to be good. But I don't think I can tell you that he's going to have another 2,000-yard season because I just don't know if he's going to have the carries to do it. Obviously, a lot with him hinges on team success. If this team is not playing well and they're falling behind in games, you're not going to be able to just kind of turn around and give it to 22 time and again. You're going to have to play catch up, and you're going to have some other guys out there. If the team gets leads and they're in a position where they just want to pound it, yeah, his workload could increase and his carries could go up and he could put up some big numbers for you. But if you ask him if he's capable, yes, there's no question. I've seen a lot of stuff this offseason, people suggesting that he's ready for a decline.
Yeah.
I don't see that, but I do wonder, about his workload and just how much they're going to ask him to do.
Is he going to be limited from that injury? Is there a plate in his foot or something?
I don't think. Yeah, I mean, he had a procedure to put a plate in there. I don't think he's going to be limited from it. I think he's looked great. I think he's kind of gotten past the mental part that comes back with recovering from an injury. He came back in that playoff game. Yeah, he had to work some rust off. He wasn't himself. I think if the season would have continued, I think you would have seen him get better. Now he's had 6-7 months to kind of explode off of it, run hills, plant and go.
I've been watching
all that. Yeah,
I've been watching him.
Yeah,
promoting his videos.
Yeah, so I mean, it looks great. So I don't think he's going to be limited by that foot at all.
Oh man, again, I'm so excited. I can't tell you as a fantasy guy and even just as a football fan how much I appreciate him because his breed, like you just don't get, like you have so many committees sprouting up, and I just love the fact that he just smash mouth, just that big guy that can carry the load. I just don't want any hindrance. I don't want them to limit them. And again, maybe I could be wrong here, but don't you think are the Titans of the mindset that like we got to go all in? Why at this point we've got a team that's potential could win the Super Bowl? I think you're suspect a little bit at wide receiver. I have my question marks unless Burks steps up, but again, I think you guys have the tools. You want to use Henry while you got him because I mean, how many Henrys are you going to land in your lifetime? Like it's kind of rare. Don't you think they're just going to use the best player possible at this point and make a hard run this year?
I mean, they're going for it. I mean, there's no question.
Yeah.
I mean, you're this because again, I think they're in that window we talked about earlier where you've got to take advantage of your roster and where you are.
Yep.
And from a defensive standpoint, this team is built to win. From an offensive standpoint, there are question marks. Derrick Henry's not a question mark. I mean, he's what you're getting in him. But at the same time, you didn't go out and trade for Robert Woods to not use him. You didn't draft Treylon Burks 18th overall to not have him play. And you don't go get Austin Hooper and draft Chigakonkwo if you're not looking for production from those guys as well. So I think you got to use them all. I don't think it's going to be just a one-man show here with Derrick Henry. You're going to have to be good around him because if you're good at those other spots, then that helps him because it opens things up for him. If everybody knows it's Derrick Henry on every play, he's not going to be as productive. They're going to stack the box, and he's going to be running into brick walls on a lot of plays. So they got to be good around him and be a team, and be a team that doesn't turn the ball over and try to finish drives with touchdowns. And that's something they didn't do as well last year. The red zone. That's a big point of emphasis this offseason. It'll be a big point of emphasis in camp. Is scoring touchdowns when you get down there in the red.
How good is the O-line? Because again, because I'm making a bold statement. I'm putting my reputation online to say Henry is the first overall, whereas everyone else is saying Jonathan Taylor. But what happens statistically, and you would know this better than anyone else because you've been studying the NFL for a while. I think the last time a person finished second 2 years in a row on top was Priest Holmes. I think it was a 2002, 2003 year. It's very rare and very unlikely that a person coming off a pinnacle year will finish on top again. So I'm factoring in a natural regression for Taylor and upticking the ceiling for a Henry. But how good is the O-line to protect them? In a nutshell, how much of a good position, knock on wood, hopefully everything's healthy, how good of a position is he O-line wise, team wise, that this guy is going to absolutely thrive this year? I want to feel good about my first overall pick. You know what I mean? Can you give us some warm and fuzzies and any negatives I should be aware of?
Well, I mean, I'll just be honest. I mean, there's question marks on the offensive line. They've got two open spots. They lost two starters from last year. Taylor Lewan's back at left tackle. I think he's had a good offseason. I think he's motivated. I think he's healthy. I think he realizes that he needs to be good this year for the team to be good. He was inconsistent last year from the very start. He gave up a number of sacks in the opener against the Cardinals, missed a couple of games, missed the Seattle game in week 2 because of a flare up, in pregame. He missed the 49ers game late in the season because of a back issue that kept him from practicing this week. He wasn't consistently good all the way through. I think he's going to be good this year. I think his mind is in a good place. I think Nate Davis, the team's right guard, is in as good a shape as he's ever been. I think he's, heading to year 4 is in a really good position to be successful. Ben Jones, the team's starting center, is one of the toughest guys that I've ever covered. Doesn't like to miss not even like to miss a game. He doesn't even like to miss a play. And sometimes it's, he has trouble getting off the field, and then he'll rub some dirt on it and come back out there. So those are 3 guys that they can count on. Now at left guard, Roger Saffold, a Pro Bowler from last year, a veteran who you could count on, is gone. He's now with the Bills. So there's a competition there between Jamarco Jones, most recently with the Seahawks, and Aaron Brewer, a guy who has kind of had some spot starts and filled in a little bit. He's in the mix. We'll have to see how that one plays out. And at right tackle, Dylan Radins, the team's second-round pick from a year ago, who just started one game and really was not much of a factor all of last year. They're counting on him to not only win the job, but to play well. And without seeing a practice in pads this year, it's hard for me to say how good they're going to be. If somebody doesn't emerge, or if they don't feel good about that spot, it's not outside the realm of possibility. They go out and get somebody. So the offensive line is a question mark, no doubt about it. And if you're a fantasy football fan, banking on Derrick Henry's success, you better keep your fingers crossed that some of these things are going to come together.
So again, I asked this from fantasy layman's terms here, and I've been asking the other people the same question. Usually there's an improvement. So how do I say this? Is there, if you were to say, here's the O-line from last year, this year, in a percentage wise, how much better is it? Again, you kind of explained some problems here. Or is there a slight regression from last year percentage wise? Is it 10% better than last year? Could it be 10% if everything falls into place? How much better is it than last year theoretically when we start September, percentage wise?
Well, right now I can't say it's better. I mean, could it be better? Yes. I mean, I don't think the general manager and the head coach, John Robinson and Mike Vrabel would, I don't think they would build a team or feel good about a team going into the season if they didn't like the prospects there. I mean, I feel like if they thought they were in trouble, they would have made a move to bring somebody in by now. So they believe in these guys. They believe that Dylan Radins is going to turn out to be the guy that they spent a second-round pick on. And they think that one of these guys at left tackle is going to emerge and be good. But I'm not going to sit here and tell you, today, without training camp practices, that they're going to be better at left guard, where, again, a Pro Bowler just left, a savvy veteran, Roger Saffold, and they're replaced them with a player who doesn't have nearly the games played. Yeah. The credentials are not there. And so I'm not going to say they'd be better at left guard. Now they could be, because Saffold, again, he's gotten up there a little bit in years. He battled injuries himself last year. one of these guys could turn out to be good. Right tackle, Ravens is a very talented. That's why he was so highly regarded coming out of college. I think he can be good, but he started one game in his career, so a lot to be determined there. And I think that there's potential, but also some big question marks.
Now, last thing, I want to hold you up. Two more quick questions, real quick. First one is, how do you guys think outlook? How are you going to finish in the division? I got you guys finishing at number 2. I think you're going to have a Matt Ryan problem this year. I could be wrong, but how do you guys finish in the division this year?
Well, I think I think the Titans. I always did this. I don't care when the Texans were owning the division, or the Colts always deferred to the teams at the top. Somebody's got to knock them off. The Titans won the AFC South 2 years in a row. They beat the Colts twice last year. So I'm not going to sit here wearing a Titans emblem on my shirt and tell you that the Titans are going to be the runner up in the AFC South. I think the Colts. I see the Colts helmet behind you. They've got to knock off the champs from the last 2 years if they want to take control of this division again. And they've got a great team. I like their coach. I think Matt Ryan's is a definite upgrade over Carson Wentz. Got a great running back in Jonathan Taylor, who you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
They're built to win. So I think it's a 2-team race between the Titans and the Colts. And they play each other twice early in the season. So we're going to have some answers right out of the gate, but we'll see.
I'm not really, I guess I'm a kind of a Colts fan because that's when I really started immersing myself. I grew up watching the 90s. Boy, I love losing Super Bowls. I grew up in the Northeast, Buffalo Bills. Like, that's when I really got into it. Jim Kelly days, Thurman Thomas. But then I kind of went off and, lived my life, high school, all that stuff. But the thing, now I'm telling everybody how old I am. Long story short. But then now I'm just like, that's what I got into Peyton Manning and the Colts. But the thing is, I'm very biased based on my fantasy players. So I will be watching a lot of Titan games and fantasy above. And I know it's sad, but some people are like, how could you, turn on a team and be so, I like my fantasy players. So I was a Julio Jones fan for years because I watched the Falcons game. And that's the nice thing about fantasy is that I can watch, like I would never watch a Jacksonville game, but I had James Robinson on my team a couple years ago and I was watching Jacksonville games. That's what makes fantasy so fun. So I like the Colts and I grew up watching them with Peyton Manning when he was, but I think I'm going to be more of a Titans fan this year. I'm excited.
Yeah. Well, hopefully it'll give you something to cheer for because certainly it's a team that has some talent, a team that's going to be good on defense. It's just crazy how things have changed. A couple of years ago, everybody was worried about defense and had no concerns about the offense, and now things have flipped a little bit. Now everybody here in Nashville is like, okay, we're going to be good on defense, but what's this offense going to do? And we're going to start getting some of those answers in late July and throughout the course of the preseason. And I think the Colts probably got some similar questions there, but they answered a big one, I think, at quarterback. I think it's a good team. They're going to be hungry after the way last season ended. So it'll be fun. I mean, it'll be a fun battle in the AFC South. And but here the goal is not to win the division anymore. That used to be. I don't want to say that was the goal, but that was such a crowning achievement for a team that went so long without winning the division. Now the Titans have done it twice. And the goal is to go further. I mean, get in the playoffs, win, make a run, get to the Super Bowl. And I'm sure the Colts think the same thing. And just got to stay healthy, got to have some things come together. And, you got to have your key players perform well.
Before I let you go, can you give me any other inside information on the team that we might not know? Anything that we don't know at all? Like, is Derrick Henry putting extra time in? Any inside bits of golden nuggets that we might not know that the teams have that maybe fantasy relevant?
Well, the biggest, I guess, one of the guys that we didn't talk about that has generated a lot of buzz here is Malik Willis. The quarterback out of Liberty,
right,
who was picked in the 3rd round. It's going to be fun to watch him in the preseason. I know fantasy owners shouldn't pick a guy like that because he's not going to play this year. I mean, he's not going to put up numbers worthy of being drafted, but he should at least make the preseason games interesting because I think he's going to get some opportunities there. He's a great kid, working really hard. an intriguing prospect that the team added this offseason will be worth keeping an eye on. But as far as other guys, I mean, I think some of the guys I'm most intrigued will be most intrigued by when camp starts. We talked about Burks earlier. We talked about Robert Woods earlier. Caleb Farley on the defensive side of the ball, first round pick out of Virginia Tech a year ago. He's coming off a torn ACL. I'm curious to see how high he is going to be, because if he is healthy and progresses like he has over the last couple of months, I think the Titans secondary is going to be fun to watch with some really good young players.
And what does a day look like for you, game day, for a beat writer? Specifically you, and do you have any other insight on how beat writers do? What do you do on game day? It's Sunday morning. Let's say you have a Sunday 1:00 game or whatever. What do you do? Are you on the field? Are you at every home game? Are you traveling to away games? What does your schedule look like? I'm curious.
Yeah, game day's a grind, and yeah, I do go to all the games, home and away, and I usually get there for a noon game at 8:30, 9:00 in the morning. Kind of doing some prep work early. We'll see what it looks like from field access standpoint. Up until COVID, I was on the field in pregame, and I was down in the tunnel when players arrived. And you're working social media during the course of the pregame activities, and then the game starts. You're locked in, writing about the game, tweeting about the game, getting stories prepared to post once the game ends. Then you're heading down to the locker room or heading down to the press conference room to talk to Vrabel and talk to the key players in the game. Locker rooms back open in the league this year, so we'll be, working the room after games like years past. And
Nice.
Then you're spending time after the games, writing about what happened and kind of gearing up for the start of another week. When you're traveling, it's more hectic. I'm kind of expecting, I've been on the team plane up until the last couple of years, again, because of COVID, expecting to kind of be back on it again this year. At least that's what it's been like since I've joined the team. And that's a hectic couple of hours, when you're traveling back, because you're doing your interviews, you're writing on the bus, you're writing when you got free Wi-Fi before the plane takes off. And then if you lose your Wi-Fi in air, you're trying to get as much work done, so the minute you land, you can post out your story once you're back in Wi-Fi service. So game days, turn into 12, 13-hour days for somebody covering the team.
Wow, unbelievable. Last thing, how do they find you? What's the best way to keep tapped in to get information from you? And I won't hold you to it, but can you give me a stat line, attempts, yardage, and touchdowns for Derrick Henry before we let you know? I got to get that out of you.
Yeah. Best way to find me is on the team's website, which is TennesseTitans.com. That's where you'll find my written content.
Nice.
That's where you're gonna find a lot of great videos from our video staff. Podcast from Mike Keith, the voice of the Titans, and Amy Wells, who does a good job as a sideline reporter and also giving analysis throughout the week. We've got a really good team of people at TennesseTitans.com, and a lot of people that work behind the scenes as well. It's a great place. If you're a fan of the Titans, check out TennesseTitans.com. And then my personal Twitter feed is at J Wyatt Sports, JWYATT Sports. I'm on Instagram, J Wyatt Sports. Facebook, for some reason, restricts number of people who can follow you there. I think it caps it at 5,000. I don't have 5,000 friends, but the Titans have 5,000 fans. So a lot of my friends on Facebook are Titans.
Maybe Jacksonville. I think Facebook is geared to Jacksonville.
Yeah. So that's where you can find me. And as far as the Derrick Henry stat line, I mean, I really do. It would be a guess at this standpoint, because I don't know what games are going to look like. I don't know how Hassan Haskins is developed. I mean, but if you're going to force my hand here on one, I mean, Derrick Henry in 2020, I think off the top of my mind, was 381 carries for 2,015 yards.
I love it.
I think I'm right on that. Maybe I'll check my
378. 2,027, 5.4 yards per carry, and 17 touchdowns on the ground.
Okay, so last year was 219, 937, and 10 touchdowns playing half a season. If I'm gonna forecast something, let's go 310 carries for 1,611 yards with 14 touchdowns in 2022.
That's realistic. I'm going to tell you, remember my words. This is the year that Derrick Henry breaks every running back record known to man. There you go.
Yeah,
That's
well, I hate last year he got hurt because I was fortunate enough to cover Chris Johnson's 2,000-yard season in 2019, and I saw Derrick Henry with the 2,000-yard season in 2020, and I was looking forward last year being the first guy ever to go for 2,000 back to back. It would have put him in the Hall of Fame, for sure, and being the first guy, winning the rushing title 3 years in a row. Unfortunately, the foot injuries, put that all on the back burner and kept it from happening. But I'm glad Derrick Henry's back. Really feel fortunate to be in a position to watch him during his career because he is a consummate professional and he's really a good guy, and he
like
works
him
extremely hard. And I remember when he first came in the league and he played behind DeMarco Murray, and DeMarco Murray never wanted to leave the field. I think part of the reason why he didn't want to leave the field because I think he knew if he cracked the door for Derrick Henry to run through it, he might not get his job back. And once Derrick Henry got a chance to start playing more in 2017, everybody saw what he was capable of doing, and then his career just kind of took off. So I hope his window stays open. I hope he stays healthy. I hope he can keep piling up numbers because he's a fun guy to watch. He's a really good guy, and I'm glad the game. I'm glad he's part of the NFL where I can watch him.
Yeah, well, what we'll do is we'll chop this video up for this last section. I'm making the prediction. Today is June 29th. I'm predicting Derrick Henry breaks many, many records in rushing and yardage and attempts this year. It's going to be his best year ever. That's my prediction going into the 2022 season. I'm saying it months in advance. I hope this comes true because I'm drafting him first overall in fantasy as well. And I like the guy. He seems like a nice guy.
Well, he's a great guy. He's a tremendous football player. He's really a good guy. I mean, he does a lot of stuff behind the scenes, and in the community, for his 2All Foundation. He just, he's everything you would want in a human being and a professional football player. And and I hope his career can last a long time. I can tell you, there's no question he's built to do it.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you, Jim. You guys, I've linked his links below. Stay on for a minute after we're done here, please, Jim. But yeah, go follow him on Twitter. And again, I'm just so blessed to have the beat writers on here giving you guys direct information. I appreciate you coming on. Thanks, Jim, and go follow Jim. And it's going to be a great year. Go Titans.
All right, appreciate it. Have a good one.
Thanks a lot.